A spoiled heiress. A janitor who saw her true potential. When her world came crashing down, everyone expected her to fail, but one man knew the truth. This is a story of how the unlikeliest mentor helped her discover strength she never knew she had. Before we dive into this powerful story of transformation, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on notifications. Stories like this one are made to inspire. Don't miss out. The Fall of a Princess. The penthouse of the Vanderbilt family towered over Manhattan like a modern-day castle, its floor-to-ceiling windows offering a glittering view of the city that never slept. Inside, the air smelled of expensive leather and freshly cut orchids, subtle reminders of the wealth that permeated every corner of the space. Aria Vanderbilt, 22 years old and draped in designer silk, lounged across a white Italian sofa, her fingers lazily scrolling through her phone. The glow of the screen reflected in her sharp green eyes, the same eyes that had graced countless society pages. She was New York royalty, untouchable, effortless, and utterly unaware of the storm about to hit her. The elevator doors slid open with a quiet chime, and her father, Charles Vanderbilt, strode in with the controlled fury of a man used to commanding boardrooms. His tailored suit didn't so much as wrinkle as he tossed a newspaper onto the glass coffee table in front of her. The headline glared up in bold black letters. Vanderbilt heiress throws $50,000 party, while company layoffs spread. Aria barely glanced at it before rolling her eyes. Dad, it's just money. Who cares? Charles didn't raise his voice. He never had to. His silence was more dangerous than any shout. You're missing the point, Aria. Again. She sat up, tossing her hair over one shoulder. What? That the media loves twisting everything I do into some scandal. Please. They've been doing that since I was 16. This isn't about the media, Charles said, his voice low. It's about responsibility. While you were popping champagne for a room full of people who don't give a damn about you, 500 employees got pink slips, 500 families, and you made sure the world saw you celebrating. Aria scoffed. You're the one who laid them off, not me. Something in Charles's expression darkened. You think this is a game? That your last name makes you untouchable. He reached into his jacket and slid a single key across the table. You're cut off. No trust fund. No penthouse. No more hiding behind the Vanderbilt name. Aria stared at the key, a cheap, ordinary thing. Nothing like the gold-plated access card she was used to. What is this? Your new life, Charles said. You want to learn the value of a dollar? You'll start at the bottom. Tomorrow, you report to Vanderbilt Tower at 6 a.m. You'll clock in like everyone else. Aria laughed, but it came out hollow. You're joking. Try me. For the first time, a flicker of uncertainty crossed her face. Doing what? Charles didn't blink. Janitorial staff. The word hung in the air like a slap. Aria's perfect facade cracked. You can't be serious. Deadly. He turned toward the elevator, then paused. And Aria, if you quit, you walk away from everything. No second chances. The doors closed behind him, leaving her alone in the suffocating silence of the penthouse. The next morning, Aria stood outside Vanderbilt Tower at 5:45 a.m., shivering in the early spring chill. She'd never been awake this early unless she was coming home from a party. The building loomed over her, its polished glass reflecting the pale dawn light. She clutched the key in her hand like it was a betrayal. Inside, the security guard barely glanced at her. Name! Aria Vanderbilt. The man snorted. Right, and I'm the CEO. Try again. Her cheeks burned. It's my name. He squinted at his clipboard, then smirked. Oh, you're the new janitor. He tossed her a wrinkled uniform. Locker rooms down the hall. Don't be late for orientation. The uniform was stiff and smelled like industrial detergent. Aria changed in a cramped bathroom stall, her fingers fumbling with the buttons. When she emerged, a middle-aged man with salt and pepper hair and a worn-in face leaned against the lockers, watching her. You lost, princess. Aria lifted her chin. I know exactly where I am. The man chuckled, pushing off the lockers. He had the kind of presence that filled a room without trying, steady, unshakable. Name's Ezekiel Morales, but everyone calls me Zeke. She didn't offer her hand. Arya, yeah, I heard. He nodded toward the mop bucket beside her. You ever cleaned anything in your life? She crossed her arms. I don't plan on staying long. Zeke studied her for a long moment, then shrugged. Funny, that's what they all say. Arya opened her mouth to retort, but before she could, the intercom crackled to life. All janitorial staff, report to the West Wing. Spill on floor 42. Zeke grabbed a mop and tossed her a roll of paper towels. Welcome to the real world, kid. As she followed him into the elevator, Arya caught a reflection in the polished doors. No designer clothes, no perfect hair, just a girl in ill-fitting uniform. For the first time in her life, she had no idea who she was looking at. The first lesson, the fluorescent lights of the Vanderbilt Tower's basement hummed, like a swarm of trapped insects, casting a sickly glow over the rows of industrial shelving and cleaning supplies. Arya clutched the mop handle like it was a foreign object, her palms already protesting the rough texture of the wood. Zeke moved through the cramped space with practiced ease, grabbing bottles of disinfectant and stacking them into a rolling cart. He didn't look at her as he spoke. Rule number 1, nobody cares who you are down here. Arya scowled. You don't know who I am. That earned her a dry chuckle. Oh, I know exactly who you are. Rich girl slumming it for daddy's approval. Seen it before. He tossed a pair of rubber gloves at her. Only difference is most of them don't last a week. She caught the gloves against her chest, the latex smell stinging her nose. I'm not most people. Zeke finally turned to face her, his dark eyes assessing. Prove it. Floor 42. The elevator doors opened to a scene of chaos. A coffee spill stretched across the marble lobby floor, seeping into the grout between tiles. A group of executives in tailored suits stepped around it without breaking conversation, their polished shoes leaving faint prints in the brown liquid. A young woman in a pencil skirt and Bluetooth headset barely glanced at them. About time. Mr. Hendricks has clients arriving in 20 minutes. Zeke nodded, already unfurling the caution signs. Arya hesitated, staring at the mess. You just expect me to clean it. Zeke finished. That's the job. She opened her mouth to argue when a familiar laugh cut through the air. Well, if it isn't Arya Vanderbilt on her knees where she belongs. Tyler Carmichael leaned against the reception desk, his Armani tie loosened just enough to look careless. They'd run in the same circles since prep school. Those circles implied Tyler had ever been more than a hanger-on to her spotlight. Arya felt her face burn. Go to hell, Tyler. He smirked, pulling out his phone. Say that again? I want to get your uniform on video. The tabloids will eat this up. Zeke stepped between them before Arya could respond. You got business here, Mr. Carmichael, or you just enjoying the view? Tyler's smile faltered under Zeke's steady gaze. This doesn't concern you, Grandpa. Funny, Zeke said, not moving, because I'm pretty sure harassing staff violates company policy. Want to test how far Daddy's name gets you with HR. A tense beat passed before Tyler shoved his phone away. This isn't over, Vanderbilt. As he stalked off, Arya realized she'd been holding her breath. Zeke handed her a wad of paper towels without comment. The stain that wouldn't die. 30 minutes later, Arya's knees ached from scrubbing. The coffee had dried into sticky streaks that refused to disappear no matter how hard she rubbed. Zeke watched from his perch on the cart. You're doing it wrong. She threw the sopping towels down. Then why don't you do it? Because teaching you is part of my job. He nudged the spray bottle toward her with his boot. Hot water set stains. You gotta pre-treat first. Arya stared at the bottle, like it might bite her. Since when do you need chemistry to clean a floor? Since forever. Zeke crouched beside her, demonstrating the circular motions that lifted the stain effortlessly. Most people think cleaning's about muscle. It's not. It's about knowing how things work. She watched his hands, scarred and calloused, but moving with precise efficiency. There was something almost artistic about it. Arya reached for the bottle. Let me try. This time the stain lifted. Lunch hour. The employee cafeteria smelled like overcooked vegetables and industrial cleaner. Arya hovered near the entrance, tray in hand, acutely aware of the stairs following her. Whispers slithered through the room. That's the CEO's daughter. Think she's ever used a microwave before? Probably doesn't even know how to swipe her own card. Her appetite vanished. Zeke appeared at her elbow, steering her toward an empty corner table. Eat. You'll need the energy. Arya poked at the rubbery pasta. I don't belong here. Neither do cockroaches, but they survive just fine. At her glare, he relented. Look, kid, you got two choices. Star to prove a point, or swallow your pride and fuel up. Your call. Across the room, Tyler held court at a table of junior executives, his laughter too loud. Arya stabbed her fork into the pasta. It tasted like defeat. The revelation. 3 p.m. found Arya elbow deep in a restroom trash bin, gagging at the smell of discarded tampons and rotting food. She'd changed 3 overflowing sanitary bins already, each more vile than the last. Zeke leaned against the sinks, watching her struggle with the knot on a fresh liner. You're twisting it the wrong way. Arya snapped the plastic. So hard it tore. I don't care. The door swung open, revealing a woman in a pantsuit who froze mid-stride. Oh, I'll come back later. Humiliation burned through Arya like fever. This was her life now, a pariah making people uncomfortable just by existing. When the door closed, Zeke spoke quietly. You think this is beneath you? It is beneath me. He considered her for a long moment. Then, to her shock, he rolled up his sleeves and plunged his bare hands into the next bin. Your daddy owns 12 yachts. How many toilets you think he's cleaned? Arya had no answer. Zeke tied off the bag with a sharp twist. There's no shame in honest work, only in refusing to do what needs doing. Something in his tone made her look closer. The way his wedding ring caught the light, despite the faded scars around it. The military tattoo peeking from his collar. This wasn't just a janitor. Who are you really? She asked. Zeke hefted the trash bag onto his shoulder. Just a guy who knows that strength isn't about what you can take. It's about what you can endure. As he walked away, Arya stared at her own hands, pristine except for the chipped manicure. For the first time, they felt useless. The breaking point. The rain lashed against Vanderbilt Tower's windows like an angry spirit, turning the glass into a rippling mirror of distorted city lights. Arya slumped against the janitor's closet door, her uniform damp with sweat and rainwater. 11 hours on her feet. 11 hours of scrubbing, mopping, and avoiding the pitying stares of people who used to beg for her attention. Her phone buzzed for the 20th time that night. Another message from Sophie, her former best friend turned spectator to her downfall. Seriously, Arya? You're actually doing this janitor thing? Call me when you come to your senses. She hurled the phone into her bag. The screen cracked against her diamond-encrusted lip gloss case, a relic from her old life that somehow ended up in her work supplies. The closet door creaked open. Zeke stood silhouetted in the doorway, his shadow stretching long across the scuffed linoleum. You missed a spot in the executive washroom. Arya didn't move. Fire me. Not my call. He tossed her a protein bar. Eat something before you pass out. The foil wrapper crinkled in her grip. Why do you even care? Zeke studied her for a beat longer than necessary. Because quitters die hungry. Midnight confessions. The storm worsened as they worked through the empty offices, their mop buckets rolling like reluctant companions. Lightning flashed, illuminating the framed portraits of Charles Vanderbilt lining the hallway, each version of her father looking more disapproving than the last. Arya attacked a coffee stain with unnecessary force. He's enjoying this, you know, watching me suffer. Zeke wrenched a warped floor tile back into place with a grunt. You sure about that? What else would you call this? She gestured wildly at her stained uniform. It's humiliation. Or education. Zeke straightened, pressing a hand to the small of his back. Ever think maybe he's trying to save you? A bitter laugh escaped her. From what? Being happy? From becoming one of these. Zeke nodded toward a nearby glass office where Tyler Carmichael sat slumped over spreadsheets, his designer shirt wrinkled, eyes bloodshot from sleepless nights. Puppets who think money equals freedom. Arya paused. She'd never seen Tyler look human. Zeke's voice softened. Your daddy's giving you the one thing his money can't buy, a spine. The words hit like a physical blow. Arya turned back to her mopping, but the rhythm had changed. Less frantic, more deliberate. The photograph. During their 2 a.m. break, Arya stumbled upon Zeke's locker. The door hung slightly ajar, revealing a faded Polaroid tucked between the metal slats. Against her better judgment, she pulled it free. The image showed a younger Zeke in military fatigues, his arm around a smiling woman with sun-kissed curls. A little girl perched on his shoulders, both of them squinting against desert sunlight. Behind them, a Humvee bore the words Semper Fi in peeling letters. You gonna keep staring or ask your questions? Arya jumped. Zeke leaned against the lockers, steaming coffee in hand. She thrust the photo back. I wasn't. Marine Corps. 2 tours. He took the picture gently, thumb brushing over the woman's face. Maria and Gabby. Car accident 6 years back. The air left Arya's lungs. I'm so sorry. Zeke tucked the photo away carefully. War teaches you what matters fast. Took losing them to realize I've been fighting for all the wrong things. He handed her the coffee. You're still fighting your first battle. The brew was bitter, black, perfect. Arya wondered how he knew how she took it. The breaking point. Dawn painted the sky in bruised purples when Arya's legs finally gave out. She collapsed onto a loading dock pallet, her blister hands trembling around a stolen granola bar. Zeke wordlessly produced a first aid kit and began wrapping her raw fingers. The silence stretched until Arya couldn't stand it anymore. Why are you really here? She whispered. A guy like you could work anywhere. Zeke secured the last bandage. Maybe I like the view. She followed his gaze upward, past the grime-streaked windows, beyond the corporate logos, to where the first true sunlight gilded the skyscrapers. For the first time, Arya noticed how the sunrise turned the entire city to gold. The memo. While sorting recycling in the executive suite, a crumpled document caught Arya's eye. The Vanderbilt letterhead glared up at her, alongside a single damning phrase. Phase 3 layoffs. 200 positions terminated, including all custodial staff. Effective Friday. Her stomach dropped. At the bottom, a list of names. Morales, Ezekiel, terminated. The date stamp read tomorrow. Arya's head snapped up. Across the room, Zeke polished the conference table with the same quiet dignity. He did everything. Unaware the axe was already falling. Her fingers clenched around the paper. For the first time in weeks, she knew exactly what she needed to do. To fight back, Arya's hands shook as she smoothed the crumpled memo against her thigh. The words hadn't changed. Morales, Ezekiel, terminated. The date glared up at her in bold print. Less than 24 hours from now. She found Zeke buffing the marble floors in the executive lobby, his movements rhythmic and practiced. The early morning light streaming through the windows caught the silver streaks in his hair, making him look older than he had just yesterday. You're quiet today, kid. Zeke didn't look up from his work. Blisters finally got to you? Arya swallowed hard. When were you going to tell me? Zeke paused, the buffer humming to a stop. His shoulders tensed almost imperceptibly before he turned. Tell you what? She thrust the memo forward. The paper trembled between them. Zeke's eyes skimmed the document, his expression unreadable. Then, to her astonishment, he chuckled. Guess the old man's cleaning house. That's all you have to say? Arya's voice rose, echoing through the empty lobby. After everything. What did you expect? Zeke folded the memo neatly and tucked it into his back pocket. This was always temporary. For both of us. Arya stared at him, her chest tight. But it's not right. You've worked here for 8 years. Zeke picked up the buffer again. Longer than most. The resignation in his voice made her blood boil. She grabbed the machine's cord, yanking it from the outlet. How can you just accept this? Zeke finally met her gaze. You planning to stop your daddy's empire, princess? The challenge hung between them. Somewhere above them, an elevator dinged. The first executives of the day would be arriving soon. Arya straightened her shoulders. Yes. For the first time since she'd known him, Zeke looked genuinely surprised. The plan. The janitorial supply closet smelled of bleach and desperation. Arya paced a narrow space while Zeke leaned against the shelves, arms crossed. "You're out of your damn mind," he muttered as she outlined her idea. "They're holding an emergency board meeting at noon," Arya said, jabbing a finger at the schedule she'd stolen from the reception desk. "Right after the layoff announcement." Zeke rubbed his temples. "And you think storming in there—" "I think my father needs to see what he's doing." Arya grabbed a stack of files she'd spent the night compiling. Employee records, family photos, medical bills. "These aren't just names on a spreadsheet, Zeke. These are people." He flipped through the pages, his callous fingers lingering on a photo of Miguel from maintenance holding his newborn twins. "Where'd you get all this?" "I've been talking to people." Arya bit her lip. "Turns out when you're invisible, folks tell you things they'd never say to a Vanderbilt." Zeke studied her for a long moment. Something like pride flickered in his eyes. "You realize this could backfire spectacularly?" Arya smoothed her wrinkled uniform. "Then at least I tried." The boardroom. Noon arrived with the quiet tension of a storm about to break. Through the boardroom's frosted glass, Arya could see the silhouettes of 12 powerful men. Her father at the head of the table, her palms slicked with sweat. She'd changed out of her janitor uniform into the emergency blazer and slacks she kept in her locker, the last remnants of her old wardrobe. Zeke appeared at her elbow, holding out a janitorial access card. Back in trance. Less security. Arya hesitated. "You're not coming with me?" Zeke's mouth quirked. "Oh, I'll be there." Just taking the scenic route. As she slipped through the service entrance, Arya heard the tail end of her father's speech. Necessary restructuring to maintain profitability. Then she stepped into the light. Every head turned. Charles Vanderbilt froze mid-sentence, his fountain pen hovering above a legal pad. "Arya." His voice could have chilled whiskey. "This is a private meeting." She walked to the center of the room, her heels clicking against the polished floor. "I know. That's why I brought the truth." With a deep breath, she slammed the files onto the conference table. Photos scattered across the glossy surface. Smiling families, hospital rooms, foreclosure notices. "This is Miguel, works maintenance. His wife just beat breast cancer, thanks to the company insurance you're about to cut." She pointed to another photo. Janelle from accounting. Put 2 kids through college on that salary. The board members shifted uncomfortably. One reached to turn a photo face down. Arya slapped her palm over it. "Look at them. Really look." Her father's jaw tightened. "These decisions aren't personal." "Bullshit." The curse echoed off the walls. Arya barely recognized her own voice. "You'd rather fire 200 loyal employees than sell one of your damn yachts." A murmur ran through the room. Charles stood slowly, his knuckles white against the table. "You have no idea what running this company entails." "I know what leadership looks like." Arya's voice broke. "And this isn't it." The door burst open. Zeke strode in, flanked by a crowd of janitorial staff, cafeteria workers and maintenance personnel. They filled the back of the room, silent but unmistakably present. Charles's eyes narrowed. "Mr. Morales, you're supposed to be—" "Fired." Zeke crossed his arms. "Funny thing about that. Turns out your daughter's not the only one with something to say." The room crackled with tension. Arya saw the exact moment her father realized. This wasn't just a tantrum. This was a reckoning. Charles sank back into his chair. For the first time in her life, Arya saw uncertainty in his eyes. "Now what?" he asked quietly. Arya lifted her chin. "Now we talk." Stronger than they thought. 1 year later, the Vanderbilt Foundation Gala shimmered with a different kind of opulence. Gone were the ice sculptures and champagne towers of Arya's infamous parties. Instead, the ballroom glowed with simple candlelight, the tables decorated with wildflowers picked by children from the company daycare, a program Arya had fought to save. She stood at the podium, her emerald green dress a far cry from the janitor's uniform she'd worn a year before. The crowd hushed as she adjusted the microphone. "A year ago, I stood in a boardroom and yelled at my father." Laughter rippled through the room. "I thought I was fighting for other people's jobs. Turns out I was fighting for my own soul." Her gaze found Zeke near the back, standing proudly beside Miguel and the other maintenance workers, all still employed. He gave her an almost imperceptible nod. Arya continued, her voice steady. Strength isn't about never needing help. It's about accepting it and giving it back. She raised her glass toward the kitchen doors, where the catering staff peered out nervously. To the people who taught me that lesson, thank you. The applause lasted a full minute. The conversation. After her speech, Arya found her father on the terrace, staring at the city skyline. The lines on his face looked deeper in the moonlight. You were right, he said without turning. About everything. Arya joined him at the railing. I had a good teacher. Charles sighed. I thought I was protecting you. Turns out I was just protecting my own ego. He reached into his pocket and produced a small velvet box. Your mother's pearls. She'd want you to have them now. Arya's fingers trembled as she fastened the necklace. The pearls felt warm against her skin, like a long-awaited embrace. Zeke staying on as your mentor? Charles asked. Arya smiled. Actually, he's taking over the new vocational program. Turns out Marines make excellent teachers. Her father chuckled, a real, genuine sound she hadn't heard in years. Remind me never to underestimate you again. The last lesson. Near midnight, Arya found Zeke by the service entrance, exactly where she knew he'd be. He held out a familiar janitorial access card. Kept this for you, just in case. Arya turned the plastic over in her hands. The edges were worn smooth from years of use. I don't need it anymore. Zeke's eyes crinkled at the corners. Everybody needs a reminder where they came from. She threw her arms around him, breathing in a familiar sense of lemon polish and old spice. When she pulled back, her eyes were bright. Thank you for seeing me when no one else did. Zeke cleared his throat gruffly. Nah, kid, thank you for proving me right. He tapped the side of his head. Knew you had it in you the whole time. As the gala music swelled behind them, Arya realized something extraordinary. She was exactly where she belonged. If the story of transformation moved you, do 3 things for me. First, hit that like button so more people can find inspiration in Arya's journey. Second, subscribe if you believe everyone deserves a second chance. And finally, share this with someone who needs reminding of their own strength. Because sometimes the most powerful lessons come from the most unexpected places.